And welcome in, folks, to Open Mic Night. I am your host, Noah Taluki. We got a full slate for you. Got a lot to talk about. A lot happened this weekend. Big Ten canceling its football season, what that means for the Michigan State Spartans, and also the Tigers sweeping the Pirates this weekend. Can they make the playoffs? We'll discuss more, and also a couple of questions to think about as Lions training camp gets underway. It's going to be a fun one here on Open Mic Night. Thanks again for everyone who is tuning in. Hope everybody had a good weekend out there. I certainly did. Played a lot of golf and with a couple buddies and watched that PGA Championship. Colin Morikawa winning his first major at the age of 23, joining Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and Rory McIlroy as the three of the youngest to win it. So awesome for him. I've been paying attention to a lot of golf. I don't know about anybody out there, but I've been watching a lot of it, and I've really been getting into playing golf this summer, and it's been a lot of fun. And if you tuned in to Doc and Jock last week, you'll hear that Adam had some golfing adventures. I'm sure they'll talk about that a lot more coming up this week as well. But golfing has been a lot of fun, and I really enjoy playing out there. But I want to jump right in because there was some stunning news, and for me, I thought it was stunning that this weekend, the Mid-American Conference was really the first to come out in Division I and say we're not going to have a season. And then I kind of thought from there, once one domino goes, the whole thing falls. So now the Big Ten canceling the upcoming football season. I only talked about Michigan last week. I was planning on highlighting Michigan State this week, but obviously no season anymore. But I just kind of wanted to maybe ask the question, what does this mean for the Spartans for next season, and who's coming back, and who's gonna be there? And my response is, of course, obviously we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen and who's coming back and all that, because certain guys have different eligibility requirements, and I know this is definitely a 0-year eligibility, which means nobody will lose a year of eligibility this season. So obviously this will give the opportunity for guys to come back if they want to take the opportunity, but some may not. So the Spartans may be losing some key players for next season. Hopefully they play in the fall of 2021. But it made me think. Now, obviously, we all want football, and this comes as a little bit of a surprise to me. I thought Division I would definitely play this season and find some sort of way, but I was wondering, does this actually help Michigan State? Because when you think about it, Mark D'Antonio left the Michigan State football program after 13 years as the head of the Spartans. And he left in February. And most of the time, the coaches have been hired like in December, early parts of January. They at least have some time to get to know their players and implement their scheme and all that. But Mel Tucker was hired, I believe, at the end of February or beginning of March, somewhere around there. Seems like years and years ago at this point, but just with everything that's been going on in the world. But D'Antonio definitely left at a later point. And Mel Tucker came in and basically just before spring football was going to start. And obviously that never really happened, but I always thought he didn't have much time to be implementing his system and implementing the culture and all that. I mean, because 13 years of Mark D'Antonio, there's a lot of things that are set in stone there that, maybe Mel Tucker had to change for being the new coach and all that, and new assistants and a couple new players and all that. New quarterback, of course, Brian Lewerke graduating, a couple new pieces on defense. So there's a lot of factors that play into it, but I was wondering, will it help Michigan State to have the season off, kind of? And obviously, I don't think it helps in terms of development on the football field and all that, but in terms of the off the field, developing the scheme, getting to know the guys, getting to know the system and all that, I think it does definitely benefit. Obviously, you want to be out there on the field. You want to have those growing pains so that you can be better for the future. But in terms of getting to know more of Mel Tucker, I think it helps because at least he'll have a whole year under his belt to get to know the guys and implement his system before it goes in. And I think you're going to see an even better Michigan State football team next season than you maybe would have this year. I know it's kind of a bold take. I know, there's not really much to prove on that besides the players that played in the 2019 season, but I still believe that it will help them more than it will hurt them since they're not playing the season. So interesting. I thought that was just an interesting look at Michigan State. And now, I don't think it's going to help every college football program, obviously, that they want to be out there. But I think for Michigan State in particular, it helps because Mel Tucker got there pretty later than most coaches. And the fact that he'll be there for a year now and will be able to hopefully play spring football this spring, and he'll at least get to establish relationships and build his culture in East Lansing. Alrighty, now with the Tigers. Wow, this was very, very awesome. Of course, the beginning of the week, the Tigers were not playing. The series against the Cardinals is postponed. They're hopefully going to make those games up here and there on off days and maybe having a couple doubleheaders here and there. But then, the Tigers had about, 4 or 5, 5 games off against the Cardinals, and they come out and they sweep the Pirates. They had offensive fireworks out there. I mean, they won the first game 17-13 in extras. Then they go out on Saturday and win 11-5 and then eke out a 2-1 victory on Sunday. I mean, just impressive to see the Tigers bats heating up during this stretch. Now they're 8-5. How about this stat? 37 hits and 30 runs total over the weekend. And that's impressive because wasn't the whole thing about the Tigers not having any bats? But they definitely came out and showed their bats this week. Now I get it. This Pirates team is 3-13. They're not special, but the fact that the Tigers pounced on their opportunity to sweep after all those days off, definitely a confidence booster, I think, for the younger guys, especially. And you look at the veteran bats that are coming alive. C.J. Cron this season, Jonathan Scope, even Jacoby Jones having a great year with the bat and showing some flash on defense out there in the outfield. I really think with that combination of the veteran presence and even Austin Romine getting in the mix, the combination of these veteran players is really helping these younger guys with their confidence. And now that you see the younger guys hitting the ball better. I mean, you saw Jamer Candelario have a great series. This is a player that's really been nowhere this whole season. Last year, he got, if anybody remembers, he got demoted to AAA. I mean, this is a player that really hasn't showed a lot, but it was good that he showed a lot, especially in that win on Friday, going 3 for 6. I mean, he just came out of nowhere and had a pretty good series. Nico Goodrum, 5 RBIs on Friday, and then the veterans, of course, like I mentioned, like even Miguel Cabrera getting in on a home run on Saturday, 3 RBIs also. These bats are important, and the bats are what the Tigers need in order to really have a nice playoff run. Hopefully make the playoffs. So hopefully go at least 500, because a 500 team is probably going to make the playoffs this year. So it's definitely important to have some bats. But what's even more important is to have some pitching. Now, I don't think the starting pitching for the Tigers this season has been all that great. I think the best has been Spencer Turnbull. I mean, he pitched a gem. 7 innings, only 1 run on Sunday. That's good to see, especially since the Tigers really have been struggling with their starters this season, especially Matt Boyd. I mean, I think he gave up something like 7 runs on Friday. I mean, that's unacceptable. Matt Boyd is supposed to be the ace of this team. And you look at him giving up 7 runs and all that. It seems like each game he's giving up that amount of runs, letting those sliders hang. I was watching the games, and he was just letting those pitches hang, and those Pirate hitters were taking advantage of that. You can't have that out of your so-called ace. You need Matt Boyd to step up. Now, I know the trade deadline is fast approaching, and it makes me question, will the Tigers get rid of Matt Boyd? And maybe they'll trade him somewhere. At this point, I don't think any teams will bite, but it's always a possibility. But, you need as much pitching as you can get. And at least Boyd gives you somewhat of a chance. Obviously, Turnbull does as well, and Nova and all those other guys. But I just don't see... I know there was some trade talks even last year and into this year, but I just don't see Matt Boyd or really any of those guys getting traded right now. But another thing that I'm really looking forward to is, or questioning, when is Casey Mize coming? Sunday, a lot of people thought the Tigers were making room for Casey Mize when I can't remember who they sent down. They sent somebody down, and I remember there was talk saying, oh, this might be Casey Mize. But then it was like, oh, dang it. Al Avila brought somebody else up. I mean, I was just like, come on. When are you getting Casey Mize up? It's about time. It's about time that he comes up and starts pitching, because we need some pitching right now. And he gives us more of a chance than some of these other guys do. Heck, right now, I think maybe Casey Mize gives you more of a chance to win a big league game than Matt Boyd, giving up all those runs. I don't think Casey Mize would be giving up all those runs consistently. So, Al Avila, I got a message to you. It's time to bring up Casey Mize and give this ball club a chance at a nice little playoff run. So 8-5 they're sitting at. It's going to be tough, though. After this Pirates series, they got 3 games against the White Sox, and then they're going to make up a couple Cardinal games, a doubleheader on Thursday. That was supposed to be the Tigers' day off, but they're making up those doubleheaders, 2 of those games there, and then 3 games against the Indians this weekend, and then next week they'll have 4 games against the White Sox, and then 3 games against the Indians again. So this is go time for the Tigers. I mean, you got to make some noise in the division, and really, when it's all said and done, you got to beat those divisional opponents, and the Indians and the White Sox have had pretty good records this season. Indians with some great pitching out there, so it's definitely have to take advantage of that, and I think this is where we'll see who the Tigers are really made of. You know, are they going to be a playoff team, or, you know, are they going to compete well with these guys, or are they going to be there for good, or are they going to bow down to, you know, the Central Division champion Indians and an improved White Sox team? So I really hope the Tigers are up for the challenge, and I really hope they give us some fireworks like they did against the Pirates last week. All right, switching gears now over to the Lions, and NFL training camp set to begin pretty soon. No more preseason in the NFL, which in my opinion really hurts a lot of teams, you know, especially guys that are on the bubble that are really trying to get reps and trying to make the team. Definitely hurts their chances, but we'll see what the requirements are going to be. I know that part of the new CBA deal, they already expanded the roster to, I believe, 55 players on active game day instead of 53. And I think a couple more practice squad guys, so there might be a more chance of sort of some of these players to make the team, even without a preseason. But I wanted to kind of ask some questions. You know, there's a lot of questions out there that some fans might have of the Lions, and I made a list of about 4 that I think are sort of the most asked about, and I'm going to try to answer them as best as I can. All right, so number 1, I definitely want to mention about Matthew Stafford. You know, what's going on with Matthew Stafford? What's his health situation, and is there any confidence in any of the backup quarterbacks with the Lions? So, of course, Matthew Stafford last year injuring his back, and he was out for the season. I think even 2018 season, they said he was playing with a broken back. I mean, that's yikes. The fact that this guy can take that much pain is unbelievable, and that was instilled in me back in 2009 when he separated his shoulder against the Browns and came back and threw the game-winning touchdown to Brandon Pettigrew. We live in my Lions glory days, I guess, but this guy can take pain like no other, and basically he was forced to sit out by the doctors. I know Stafford wanted to play, and because that's just who he is, but basically they just said, no, you're our franchise, you're sitting out. We don't want you getting hurt anymore, and that broke his streak of whatever consecutive games started or something like that. But so I think a lot of fans are concerned with that. Of course, there was that whole thing with the false positive test and all that. I'm not worried about that. I don't want to talk about that. That'll be in conversation for another day. But I'm focusing more on those injuries from last season. From what the reports are saying, Matthew Stafford is good. He's working out. He's ready to go. I mean, we've seen those videos surface at different high schools with Stafford working out with Jesse James and DeAndre Swift, Kerryon, all those guys out there. So that's definitely good to see. He looks healthy, at least what I've seen in those videos. And then it begs the question, well, if Stafford does get hurt, do you have confidence in the backup? The Lions have not had a solid backup quarterback, arguably since Sean Hill. And that was early in Matthew Stafford's career when Sean Hill actually had to play because Stafford was labeled as Matt Glassford. He was built of glass. He kept getting hurt every game, it seemed like, 2009, 2010. And then, he really bulked up his body in the offseason and was able to take a lot of the hits that the NFL brings with it. So he was able to start every game since 2011. But now as Stafford gets older and, he was out 8 weeks with the back injury, you think, shouldn't they bring in, a decent backup quarterback? Because, as much as Jeff Driscoll and David Blau sort of held down the ship, they weren't all that great, but I wouldn't say they were, awful. We only saw one game of Jeff Driscoll before then he got put on IR, and then David Blau came in. But luckily, no more Jeff Driscoll. David Blau still on the roster, but in comes Chase Daniel. Now, Lions fans out there are talking all about, why did the Lions get Chase Daniel? This is just Stafford's friend, right? They go back to their days as Texas high school football players. Do I think Chase Daniel gives you a really good chance to win games if Stafford's out for a long, long period of time? No, I don't. However, is he better than David Blau or Jeff Driscoll? Yes. He's been in the league since 2008. Any quarterback that has been in the league that long knows what they're doing. They have some sort of experience and knowledge that they bring to the table, and they can hold down the ship. So, do I have confidence in the backup quarterbacks? I have more confidence than I did last year, that's for sure. Obviously, I don't want to speculate or anything because it doesn't happen. Stafford hasn't gotten hurt yet this season. But all I'm saying is that in case something happens like last season, I do have more confidence in Chase Daniels than I do with Driscoll or Blau. Next on the list is DeAndre Swift for real. And I'm going to say this. I think he is for real. You watch his highlights as running back at Georgia, and I just go, wow, I really want the Lions to have this guy. This is the guy that we need. And sure enough, he falls to the second round. And there's Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia just waiting for him with that 35th overall pick. And when they said the Detroit Lions select DeAndre Swift, I went crazy. I said, oh my goodness, this is a steal for the Lions. This is the running back that they've been wanting all decade long. They've tried other running backs. You think about the beginning of the decade, 2010, they draft Javid Best, who had that bit of lightning in a bottle, if you will. But then the concussions got to him. You had Mikhail LaShore, who in Adam's Throwback podcast, I didn't even know this, he didn't have a single rush of over 20 yards all season. All season long, he didn't have a single rush of 20 yards or more. That's mind-boggling to me. And then obviously he never panned out. And then Reggie Bush comes, an old Reggie Bush, who gives you over 1,000 yards. Probably him and Joique Bell, the two best running backs of the decade for the Lions. But they weren't like some special players. They were just, kind of like role players. Joique Bell did a nice job. Undrafted out of Wayne State. And the fact that he's, racked up those yards and those touchdowns for the Lions as an undrafted, that's impressive. And he was able to do it with, basically an average offensive line. So definitely the two best running backs there. But then just a bunch of running back carousel, Zach Zenner and then Amir Abdullah, who did not pan out at all. Too small. Speaking of Amir, I was watching something with the Arizona Cardinals, and I guess they were the ones that really wanted to pick Amir Abdullah. And then the Lions had the pick right before them, and they picked Amir, and they were devastated. But then they ended up picking David Johnson later, and look how much that worked out for them. Heck of a lot better running back than Amir Abdullah ever was. And then obviously Kerryon Johnson, who might be the most talented running back of the decade for the Lions, but just needs to stay healthy, needs to stay on the field. And at least DeAndre Swift gives you another option at trying to stay on the field as a decent running back. So I really think that he's for real with his speed and explosion that he has. Listed as 5'9", 215, a shorter running back. But I think he's NFL ready. I think he's able to carry the load and not really many injury problems either. So, hopefully the NFL strength program to bulk up his body to take the weekly pounding of NFL hits and stay healthy for the Lions, because the Lions definitely need him. They definitely need a running back that could be a bell cow, and DeAndre Swift gives you that bell cow approach. Speaking of the offensive line, another question I think fans are asking is how well is this offensive line going to play this year? You have Taylor Decker, left tackle. I don't think Taylor Decker's the best. I don't think he's the greatest. And I believe this is his free agent season after this season. I just hope the Lions don't re-sign him. I don't think he deserves a spot on this team anymore. I think he's just very average, and the Lions should be moving forward from that. Then you have kind of like a toss-up between Joe Dahl and maybe a couple of the other rookies. I think the rookie guards are good. I think Jonah Jackson and Logan Stenberg. I mean, Logan Stenberg, his nickname was Mr. Nasty in high school and college, I think. They called him Mr. Nasty. I mean, that just tells you something right there. So I think Joe Dahl is okay. I don't think he's like the best. I think the best offensive lineman on the team is probably Frank Ragnow, and a player, in my opinion, who may be able to step up possibly into that Pro Bowl conversation this year. I mean, first round pick from 2018, and he's gotten better and better each season, and really a player that has sort of gone unnoticed for the Lions up front, and I think could take a huge step forward this year. And then obviously you have the signing of Vaitai. Don't even get me started on how to pronounce his first name. It's very long. It starts with the letter H. I just call him Vaitai, the right tackle. Spent a heck of a lot of money for him. I believe $50 million for him for the right tackle. Basically like the same amount it seemed like that they spent on Rick Wagner. But I mean, Vaitai was more of a backup on the Eagles. Did start here and there, but more so a backup, which is crazy because why would you be paying a backup $50 million? The Lions must see something in him because, I mean, but I will give him this. The Eagles' offensive line is very good, and there's a lot of depth there, and Vaitai was just I think like a 5th or 6th round pick, so definitely a lot of depth on that Eagles line. Will have a chance to start finally in the NFL with the Lions. And I hope that $50 million is worth something. So will the Lions be better on the offensive line this year? I believe so. I think Frank Ragnow taking that step forward. Vaitai with his experience with the Eagles and what he can bring to the table. And also new offensive line coach as well. So and they were a concern last year. Fired the old offensive line coach. Matt Patricia brought in a different guy. So we'll have to see how that works out for the Lions. And then finally, speaking of new coaches, how much better will the defense now led by Corey Unlin be this season? I mean, last season's defense couldn't have gotten much worse. I mean, you think about the defensive line. Where was the pressure? I mean, you look, there's quarterbacks dropping back in the pocket. You heard Dak Prescott say, I had 10 seconds to read. I went through my reads 3 times. Whoa. That's unacceptable. Lions need to get pressure. And I will admit, I think part of that was the scheme with Paul Pasqualoni. It seemed like the defensive line, when they would try to rush, they would purposely not rush the quarterback. It's like they wanted to keep him in the pocket. You got to at least have some sort of rush. It seems like the linemen, what they would do is they would just put their hands on the offensive lineman and then just kind of wait there. Just kind of dancing around. There was no sort of swim move or trying to get the hands down. I think part of that was the scheme. So as much as people say, well, the Lions had no rush, they didn't. But I think part of that was the scheme. And I think Corey Unlin understands that. And I think he's going to be able to bring more pressure this season with the other defensive linemen. And a couple of new guys, Danny Shelton, Nick Williams on the interior, and then even Julian Okwara from Notre Dame. I think that kid was a first-round pick, but fell into the 3rd round because he broke his leg or something like that. So Romeo Okwara's brother, of course. Then when you look at the linebackers like Jared Davis, he can't play in coverage. This is the last year of Jared Davis on the Lions, and we know that with the Lions opted to not give him a 5th year. So he'll probably be playing with a chip on his shoulder this year, though, but I don't see much from Jared Davis. We'll get more into in-depth position previews next week. And then also the defensive backs. That is one area of the defense that I think the Lions struggled with the most was the defensive backfield. Obviously, you had Slay, but, other than that, that was about it. How many times do I need to see Will Harris get beat for touchdowns? It's crazy how many times these guys were just beat over the top like a piece of cake. But Corey Unlin is basically like a lifetime defensive back coach. Came as the defensive backs coach from the Eagles. Even won a Super Bowl with them. And the defensive backfield for the Eagles was always pretty good. So hopefully Corey Unlin will help those defensive backs more, so that they're not giving up touchdowns of 50 yards just over the top like nobody's business. All right, so I think the defense will be a little bit better under Corey Unlin. They also fired some position coaches, I believe the defensive line coach and a couple other coaches too. So I think they fired the right guys in terms of position coaches. They brought in the right people. I'm willing to give this defense another chance, especially with some of the new acquisitions. Jamie Collins, I forgot to mention as well. So it'll be very interesting to see where this team goes from there. And we'll get more into position previews, of course, next week. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in now to the Open Mic Podcast. Check out the Detroit Sports Podcast Network's other podcasts like Doc and Jock, The Fan Report, the Michigan Football Podcast, Adam's Throwback, where I think they're going into the 2013 Lions season 7-9. Can't wait to hear about that. I remember a lot of those games like it was yesterday. So it'll be exciting, and there's a lot of great content out there each and every day just for you. So thanks again for tuning in. Be sure to join us next week only on Open Mic Night.